Cargill's mission is to feed and nourish the world sustainably and responsibly. Instead of jumping straight into batch 1, the Plug and Play team set up a batch 0 where they knew what our general interests were. We gave a few areas that we thought were interesting, concepts like eliminating harmful pathogens from the food supply chain. Who doesn't want that? And we were given a series of companies that we thought were interesting.
So StenCo makes a biodegradable barrier coating which goes onto paper or molded fiber to give it the performance of plastic.
We met StenCo at the very beginning of the animal health program. It was just JB at the time. He showed us a few samples. At the time I had a partner on Cargill Protein North America's R&D team. His name is Brad Wright. And Brad said he's onto something and we should explore it. Our goal was to look at the biggest opportunity. Let's take what's being served in an unsustainable package and let's replace it with a sustainable, compostable one, and we'll test it out. Everything starts with the test.
So when we did the initial formal test, though, we had a couple surprises. The test was actually initially supposed to be 5 days. It was determined that it was 5 days after 23 days in a refrigerator. So the first trial was, I'll call it marginal.
In round 2, we repeated almost the exact same requirements, but with a different tray that was made of virgin fiber. And that test passed, and it passed those same 2 measures. Is the quality of the meat impacted, and does the tray hold up in testing? And it passed both.
Consider it like an ink or something that gets coated on, but it goes on very, very thin, like a paint. So we're talking, microns. But ultimately what it does is when it hits the surface of the paper, it forms a barrier to oxygen, to water vapor, also to oils and greases. It's so thin that it's barely even there. But what its job is to do is to make sure that the paper or the tray doesn't necessarily get wet or dampen out or fail in terms of its rigidity over the course of the shelf life.
You have this whole system that is built around plastics because that's what we've used for decades. It's cheap and it's easy. And the problem of pollution is very invisible to the general consumer, myself included. We put it in the trash for the recycling and then it's gone. I don't have to deal with the big pile that I see growing on a daily basis. The idea that you can create a barrier coating that is plant-based and biodegradable truly unlocks completely compostable packaging.